a verse. This is the 4th chapter, 11th verse, Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Ye tamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham manavartante manushyapartha sarva saha. And this verse in the Bhagavad Gita says, as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Prita, or Arjuna. So this is the 4th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, verse number 11. So, basically, this poet asked Prabhupada, is there a religion that could unify everyone in America? And Prabhupada says, yes. And he quotes the verse, Aishwaryasya Samagrasya Vishnu Purana. And Krishna possesses all beauty, all wealth, all knowledge, all power, all fame, all renunciation. Therefore, he is all attractive. That means everyone should be attracted to him. Even the demons. They're amazed by his power, by his wealth, by his fame, by his beauty, and so forth. So he's all attractive. And then Prabhupada says, whatever you want, you will find in Krishna. He is the unifying agent, the center of everything desirable. Well, what is desirable? 1, eternal life. 2, eternal happiness. 3, eternal love. So who would not want those things? Eternal life, eternal happiness, eternal love. An eternal body, eternal young body. So this is exactly what everyone is looking for. And they can find it in Krishna. Therefore Krishna says, everyone is trying to come to me. In other words, everyone is actually looking for Krishna. But most people don't realize it. Everyone is trying to come to Krishna. But some, when it says, Ye tamam papadyante, but some are realizing me, not directly, but indirectly, through my various energies. So, that is a very significant statement. Krishna teaches us how to see him through his different energies. In other words, Krishna is the energetic. Energetic means he's the one that possesses all energies. And everything we see, including ourselves, everything else is his energy. Like, for example, electricity is energy. Right? But electricity makes other things work. Refrigerators, freezers, cars, and so forth. So, where does that electricity come from? It comes originally from the sun. The sun is the source of all energy. Where does the sun come from? The sun is coming from Krishna. It is his effulgence. The sunlight is the reflection of his effulgence off of the sun. It's coming in from the spiritual world and reflecting off of the sun. And where is that Brahma Jyoti coming from? Coming from Krishna. So therefore he is the energetic, the person that possesses all energies. And everything else is his energy, including us. We're his marginal energy. And he has internal energy manifested in the spiritual world, and he has And it can be manifested anywhere. When he comes in this world, he manifested as his loving pastimes with Srimati Radharani and the gopis in residence of Vrindavana. And then he has his external energy, which is represented by the material nature. So he is the energetic and everything else is his energy. So Prabhupada says, Krishna is the perfect unifying agent. Insofar as his unifying power is concerned, he appeals in his various manifestations to all varieties of truth seekers. So, some people worship Krishna as Varaha. Other people worship him as Tirupati Balaji. Other people worship him as Ranganath. And other people worship him as Jagannath. Other people worship him as Padmanabha. Other people worship him as Varadaraj. You see, he has many expansions. And because there are all different varieties of truth seekers. So, now Prabhupada mentioned this word, truth seekers. So then he says, there are three types of truth seekers. There are mental speculators, called the Jnanis, who through their speculation think that the impersonal, all-pervasive Brahman is the ultimate realization of God. That means that these are some of the greatest speculators in the world, but they can't go past the Brahman realization. That's the limit of their ability to speculate. And there is another type of truth seeker, they're called yogis. They're trying to perceive the personal presence of Krishna in the heart of every living entity as Paramatma. And they're usually the followers of Patanjali and his Yoga Sutras. And then there are the devotees, the bhaktas, who are seeking active personal reciprocation through love and devotion to Bhagavan Krishna, the supreme, absolute truth, personality of Godhead. So, here you notice Prabhupada didn't say those who follow karma kanda. They're not actually seeking Krishna, they're actually seeking improved sense gratification. They might be doing some pujas for Krishna, or some form of Krishna such as Narayana, but they're not really interested in Krishna, they're interested in getting something from him, his power or his opulences. The real truth seekers, there are three. There's a very high-class mental speculators called Jnanis, but they can't go beyond the Brahman realization. And there are the yogis who want to see Paramatma, and then there's the bhaktas. The first two are armchair speculators, let's say armchair intellectuals. The Jnanis just sit around speculating. And then the yogis, they engage in meditation, all kinds of tapasya. But the devotees are active, and they're seeking out personal reciprocation through love and devotion with Krishna. Okay. So, in the Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, 11th verse, it says that the only business of a devotee, or the only, let's say, preoccupation of a devotee is seeking Krishna. In other words, the devotee doesn't have any other interest in life except to find Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because they know that is the source of, Krishna is the source of all love, all beauty, all fame, etc. So they don't waste their time on anything else. Now, does that mean they have no interest in anything else? No. They're interested in everything because they know how to use everything in Krishna's service. And they know that everything is made of Krishna's energies. But they have that superior knowledge by knowing how to use everything in Krishna's service. So, in the first canto, second chapter, 11th verse, let's see what that says. One second. 2:11. It says, Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajganamadmayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. It says that learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. So these are three stages of realization of Krishna. The first two are imperfect, and the third is perfect. So there's Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Three levels of understanding Krishna, and three levels of conscious perception. So and in that verse it indicates that really the only business of the human being is to search out the absolute truth. And what is the absolute truth? The first point Prabhupada says is the absolute truth is one. It cannot be two. Why does he say that? Because if you say, well, the absolute truth is Hara Hari. And some people in India worship, a deity. One half of it is Lord Shiva, the other half of it is Krishna. And Prabhupada says, two different entities would mean that they are relative truths. One is relative to the other, and the other is relative to the first. Yeah. But he says that's not the absolute truth. The absolute truth is one. It cannot be two. Otherwise it's relative. So, knowledge of the absolute truth is one. Vedanti tattvavidas. Tattvavidas means those who are in knowledge of the absolute truth. And it goes on to say that such persons confirm the absolute truth as one. But it is realized in three phases. So there's a difference between saying the absolute truth is two. Hara Hari. Is that the name? Hara Hari? Or Hara Hara?
I don't know exactly.
You never saw that?
Yeah, I saw that, but I don't know the name.
Okay. It's Hara Hari. Well, okay. Even though some people worship that deity, it's just a proof of their incomplete knowledge. Complete knowledge is the absolute truth is one, but it's understood in three phases. Brahmeti paramatmiti bhagavaniti sabhyate. The first phase is the Brahman, the impersonal or pervasive effulgence coming from the body of Krishna and expanding from the Vaikuntha planets throughout the whole spiritual universe, and are being reflected off of the sun, coming into the material world and filling the whole material world with energy and spirit souls. For example, there are three stages or three phases of understanding the sun. There's understanding the sun as sunshine, there's understanding the sun as the sun globe, and there's understanding the sun god within the sun globe, Surya, or Vivaswan. So, all three are understanding the sun, but there's different levels of understanding. Just like in elementary school, children understand arithmetic. Then in junior high school, they begin to study algebra. And then in college, or let's say advanced courses in high school, they study calculus. And then they go to college, they start studying differential equations. And they can even go up to understanding quantum mechanics. Right? So there are different levels of understanding mathematics and physics. In the same way, there's different levels of understanding Krishna. Now, has the study of mathematics reached its zenith, its highest point? No. The highest point of mathematics would be to understand the unified field theory. This is something Einstein was working on, but he could never complete it. Why can't he complete it? Because the unified field theory is Krishna. It's not a theory, it's a fact. Everything is coming from him. Everything is resolved in him. Everything is harmonized within him. So you can't understand the unified field theory without understanding Krishna. Therefore, even Einstein was supposed to be so brilliant, he couldn't come to that understanding. He knew it must exist, but he couldn't figure it out. So, in the same way, there are different stages of understanding the sun. And when you begin to understand, you can see the sunshine isn't as important as the sun globe, and the sun globe isn't as important as the sun god, because he's actually controlling the whole sun, the globe, the sunshine, etc., and the movement of the globe. So there are many pictures of Surya riding on a chariot and taking the sun through the universe every day. He's actually controlling the whole thing. So if you really want scientific knowledge of the sun, you would have to go to the sun, planet, or globe. And if you want to really understand the sun globe, you would have to go into the sun globe and eventually find Surya. Now we know, for us in our present state, that's impossible. We would burn up way before we reach the sun. Right? So, that's why Prabhupada says, whenever you go to the origin of something, you encounter mystical power, achintya shakti. And it baffles people. Therefore, the scientists don't want to deal with origins. They just deal with what's in the middle. Newton's 3 laws of mechanics, and so forth. When they go to the origin of things, they get confused because they see unlimited sources of energy, and they can't figure out where it's coming from. They know it's there, they see it, but they can't figure it out. That's why it's called achintya, inconceivable. So, if we only understand Brahman and Paramatma, then our realization is not complete. One has to go further, Prabhupada says. And in the Upanishads, Isha Upanishads, it says, Hiranmayana patrena satyasya pitam vakam tatvam kusam apavrinu satyadharmaya dristaya pusanika seyama suya prajapatya yuha rasmin samaha teja yatte rupam kalinatamam tate prasyami yosavaso purushaha sahomasmi. So these two mantras, 15 and 16, Isha Upanishad mantras 15 and 16, say, O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee. So that's mantra 15. And mantra 16 says, O my Lord, O primeval philosopher, maintainer of the universe, O regulating principle, destination of the pure devotees, well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind, please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form of bliss. You are the eternal Supreme Personality of Godhead, like unto the sun as am I. So, then, in Prabhupada's discussion with Allen Ginsberg, he says, the author Sri Vyasadeva is praying in mantra 15 of the Ishopanishad, please wind up this glaring effulgence of yours so that I can see your real face. So the Lord's real face is there. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Brahmanahi Pratistham. So the people who say God has no form, he's nirakar, nirakar, nirakar. Right? That is nonsense. That's not what Ishopanishad says. When it says, Hiranmayana Patmena Satyasya Pitam Mukam. What is Mukam? Mukam in Sanskrit means face, right? It's the same word in Hindi? Muk. Okay. So here it's Mukam. Mukam is, this is the decline, because it's in a sentence, and it's referring to the face, so it has the So Muk means face, right? And face of who? Satyasya, of the supreme truth. Apihitam is covered. By what? By this Hiranmayana Patmena, this dazzling effulgence. So God has a face, he has a body. He's not just a face, he's a whole body. It's called Satchitananda Vigraha. So the people who say, oh, God has no form, he's nirakar, it's a bunch of nonsense. But those people are in the majority, like 96 to 98% of the gurus in India say, he has no face, there's no body, it's just a light. In fact, I'm going to bring a book of a popular Mayavadi and read you what they say. It's all insults of Krishna. He has no face, he has no body, he can't eat, he can't sing, he can't dance, he can't play the flute. That's all, they're basically saying that's all fairy tales, it's all Disneyland. It has nothing to do with the reality, because reality is nirakar, no form. And then in mantra 16, he says, kindly remove the rays emanating from your body so that I can see your rupam. Tate pasyami yosava soprusa. So he says, tejo yatte rupam kalyanatamam. So not only has a face, but he's got a rupam, he has a form. So how can they say nirakar has no form, or arupa? Arupa. In the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada explains very nicely, the Mayavadis put their stress on the word arupam. There is a verse in the Vedas, I'll find it right now, it says, it describes the Lord as arupam. But Prabhupada says this arupam means that he doesn't have a form like ours, made of mucus, bile, stool, urine, and so forth, and bones, and so forth. His body is made of Sat Chit Ananda, Vigraha. Vigraha means the form, and Sat Chit Ananda means form made out of transcendental, eternal life, and Sat-Chit, full knowledge, and transcendental bliss. So he has a body, but it's not like our body, which is made of basically stool. His body is Satchitananda Vigraha. 1 second, let me just find this. Sometimes I divert, I stop talking for a minute or two in order to have the full spiritual authority just to show you how thorough Prabhupada is. He always backs everything up with spiritual knowledge. Okay, anyway, I'll find that and come back to it. So this arupam, the Mayavadis jump on that word. They say, aha, now we got it. Now we got proof that Krishna has no form. It's complete nonsense. It's just like saying, like for example, someone who doesn't know English and they're reading something and it says, a devotee saw a minute worm Okay, we'll finish up after the class, after the opening of deeds. Hare Krishna. Shri Shri Radha Nila Madhava Ki Jai. Jai. Or Premanande Haribol. look up the verse in 7th chapter, 7th verse. It says, my matak paritaram nanyat kinchit asti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protram sutre manikina iva. O conqueror of wealth, there's no truth superior to me. Everything rests on me as pearls are strung on the thread. 7th chapter, 7th verse, Krishna is saying that. In the purport, Prabhupada says that the personality of Godhead is the supreme absolute truth, is also the affirmation of the Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha. That is, the supreme absolute truth personality of Godhead is Lord Krishna. And his body is Satchit Ananda Vigraha, the form, Vigraha, of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. That is, the supreme absolute truth personality of Godhead is Lord Krishna, who is the primeval Lord. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Krishna is the supreme God, or absolute truth. The supreme God is somewhat confusing. The supreme absolute truth, there's no confusion. Because someone can say, oh no, I believe Lord Shiva is God, or I believe Durga Mata is God, or I believe my next door neighbor is God. So they'll argue about God. But you cannot argue about the supreme absolute truth. There's only one supreme absolute truth. Ishvara Parama Krishna. And that's confirmed by Brahma, the greatest scientist in all time. Einstein is a little mosquito next to Brahma, as far as science goes. So, then it says, that is the supreme absolute truth personality of God is Lord Krishna, who is the primeval Lord, the reservoir of all pleasure, Govinda, and the eternal form of complete bliss and knowledge. These authorities leave no doubt that the absolute truth is the supreme person, the cause of all causes. The impersonalists, however, the Mayavadi impersonalists, argues on the strength of the Vedic version given in the Svedasvatara Upanishad, 3rd canto, 10th verse, Tatu yad uttarataram tad alpam anamayam ya etad viduram ritaste bhavanti ate tare dukam evapiyanti. In the material world, Brahma, the primeval living entity within the universe, is understood to be the supreme amongst the demigods, human beings, and lower animals. But beyond Brahma, there is the transcendent, who has no material form and is free from all material contaminations. Anyone who can know him also becomes transcendental, but those who do not know him suffer the miseries of the material world. So this is the Svedasvatara Upanishad, in which this word arupam is used to describe the supreme transcendental reality. So, the impersonalist puts more stress on the word arupam, but this arupam is not impersonal. It indicates the transcendental form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge as described in the Brahma Samhita quoted above. Yeah, Brahma Samhita says, Satchitananda Vigraha. Other verses in the Svedasvatara Upanishad substantiate this as follows. In other words, there are several things that are necessary to understand Sanskrit. One is, of course, the Sanskrit alphabet. 2 is Sanskrit grammar. And 3 is context. Context. It's extremely important to understand how to read in context in Sanskrit, because Sanskrit is a very highly declined and conjugated language, which is very interesting. According to Darwin's theory, the farther back you go, the more primitive everything becomes. But in linguistics, the farther back you go, the more complicated the languages become. So that's a disconnect, right? You would think, oh, the farther back you go, there was no language like we know today, which is grunts, like that, right? No, the farther back you go, you get more complicated language, more perfect languages, more precise languages such as Sanskrit. So Sanskrit, they always practice the principle of what you call Occam's razor. Occam was a Christian philosopher, and you have a computer, you have a cell phone. Look up Occam's razor. Occam. Occam said that you must always take the most direct and simple explanation, and therefore he had a razor. Whenever there'd be a long, wordy explanation of something, he would start cutting out things. He'd come down, bring it down, whittle it down to the base essence. Right? Yeah. What's it say?
Occam's razor is a problem-solving principle.
Yes.
Attributed to William of Ockham.
Yeah.
Who was an English Franciscan
Monk. Friar.
Scholastic philosopher and theologian. His principle states that among competing hypotheses, the one with the fewest assumptions should be selected.
Right, exactly right. The one with the fewest assumptions. In other words, he had this razor, he would whittle things down to the essence. Right? So, Sanskrit is like that. It does not unnecessarily repeat things. So it uses its declined forms, and when it's speaking, when it's a context, it will not always repeat the same thing. Like, let's say, the Constitution of the United States of America. It's a long phrase, right? So if you're writing a thesis on the Constitution of the United States of America, if you have to repeat it every time, it gets to be very tedious for reading. So, therefore, there's such a thing as pronouns. Those are pronouns. You can say, you can refer back to something as it. Right? Well, Sanskrit is much more precise than that. And it could refer to several different things. You would have to carefully read the context, But Sanskrit is much more precise. And it does not continually repeat something. Therefore, you have to learn how to read in context. So, in context of the Srutasvatara Upanishad, third canto, 10th verse, when it says arupam, he's not saying that God has no form. What he's saying here is God has no material form. He has a spiritual form, which is called Satchitananda Vigraha, as Lord Brahma describes it in Brahma Samhita. And how do we know that? Well, this is verse number, third canto, verse 10, Srutasvatara Upanishad. If you go back to verses 8 and 9 of that same chapter, he says, Vedaham etam purusham mahantam adityavarnam tamasaparastat, and so forth. Tam eva viditpati mrityum eti nanya fantas vidyate yanaya. Yasmat param na param asti kinchet yasmin nan yo no yayo sti kinchet riksha ivastabdo divitistanti ekas tenidam purnam purushena sarvam. So this says, now the previous two verses to the one we just read with the word arupam, it says, I know the Supreme Personality Godhead who is transcendental to all material conceptions of darkness. Only he who knows him can transcend the bonds of birth and death. There is no way for liberation other than this knowledge of that Supreme Person. There is no truth superior to that Supreme Person because he is the supermost. He is smaller than the smallest and he is greater than the greatest. He is situated as a silent tree and he illumines the transcendental sky, and as a tree spreads its roots, he spreads his extensive energies. From these verses, one concludes that the Supreme Absolute Truth is the Supreme Personality Godhead who is all-pervading by his multi-energies, both material and spiritual. Now, what do we understand here are two verses before verse 10, which the word arupam is mentioned. And if we look at it carefully, we see that God is referred to as he, is not referred to as it. If it was an it, then you wouldn't know much about it. Right? But it's a he, you know that he's a person. And the description of him is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when it says Purusham Mahantam in the first line of verse number 8, Vedaham Etam Purusham Mahantam, he is the greatest personality. Adityavarnam Tamasa Parastat, and he shines like the sun, which eliminates all ignorance. It's completely transcendental to all of them. And then the third line, Tam Eva Viditvati Mrityum Iti. There's no way for liberation other than the knowledge of that supreme person. So, there's no doubt, if you read in context, if you just take that one verse 10 and you see the word arupam, you could speculate and think this is saying God has no form. But if you look at the previous two verses and you read in context, as you're supposed to do in Sanskrit, you know that there's no doubt that he's a person, and arupan means that he has no material form. His form is completely spiritual. He still has a form. You can still see him. But if you would, dissect the human being, you would see that inside the body there are bones and marrow and blood and tendons and stool and urine and all that junk, right? But if you look inside the body of Krishna, you see there's eternity, bliss, and knowledge. So there's a major difference in the rupa, the form. One is material and the other is spiritual. Of course, if you look carefully into the human form, you would find the soul embedded somewhere in the heart. And you would also find Paramatma, the super soul, Krishna's expansion in the heart of every living entity. Okay, so we went through that little exercise to understand how the Mayavadis obfuscate, O-B-F-U-S-C-A-T-E, what's that word? Obfuscate. Obfuscate means they confuse the truth rather than elucidating or making clear the truth by giving partial knowledge. O-B-F-U-S-C-A-T-E. What?
Render obscure.
Yeah, that's it. Render obscure.
Or unintelligible.
Unintelligible. In other words, you can't understand it. So this is what the Mayavadis do by speculating with imperfect knowledge and imperfect senses. In other words, you cannot understand Krishna by speculation. You could.
Earlier you had mentioned there are 3 types of truth seekers.
What?
Earlier you had mentioned about 3 types of truth seekers,
Yes.
right? So is there a guidance in terms of like what is the right path, or all of them are the same? Or can you be both, like one or the other, or you just be like one, like they both be
No,
one?
we explained earlier that the speculators, called jnanis in Sanskrit, and those who are seeking Paramatma, they're called the yogis, they have imperfect knowledge, or incomplete, let's call it incomplete knowledge. Therefore, they stop at a certain point. It's just like going up a ladder. Instead of going to the top, you stop on one rung, and they stay there. So you never reach the top. You're on the ladder. You might even be able to see the top, but you never reach it because you stop. So the yogis and the jnanis, they stop at a certain point in the search for the absolute truth due to incomplete knowledge. Just like if Columbus was looking for a western path to India. Previously they had to go east, right? Marco Polo went east. Well, Columbus was thinking, if the earth is round, maybe I can go west and find it, and maybe it'll be easier. Well, he did find something. It wasn't India. It's called the West Indies. Right? They called it the West Indies. It was the Caribbean islands and Florida and so forth. And they discovered eventually South America and Central America and North America. So they stopped at that point. They stopped trying to go west to find India because they ran into several continents, right? And then there was no Panama Canal, and no one wanted to go all the way down below South America and around into the Pacific Ocean, which is a huge, much bigger than the Atlantic Ocean. And no one wanted to go north and get stuck, in the North Pole. So they stopped at that point. So that's the same thing with the Mayavadis and the yogis, or the speculators and the yogis. At a certain point they stop in their search for the absolute truth. They say, this is enough, this is the absolute, but it's imperfect knowledge. Therefore, they never achieve ananda. They achieve sat eternally, and they achieve chit, knowledge, but they don't achieve ananda, because to achieve ananda there has to be pure love. So, if a person only understands Brahman and Paramatma, then the realization is not complete. So, the Jnanis come up to the level of Brahman. The yogis may, if they strictly follow Patanjali, they can come up to the level of Paramatma. But the devotees, they pray, Hiramayana Patrena Satyasyapi Tammukam Tattvam Pusam Bhavaprinu Satyadharmaya Drishti Pusaneka Seyan Yamasuya Pachapatya Vyuharasmin Samahateja Yate Rupam Kayanatamam Tate Pasyami Yosavaso Purushaha Samasmi. So the devotees are praying to the Lord, oh my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence, the Brahman effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee. And then he continues to pray. O my Lord, O primeval philosopher, maintainer of the universe, O regulating principle, destination of the pure devotees, well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind, please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form of bliss. You are the eternal Supreme Personality of Godhead, like unto the sun as I am. Now, why is the devotee praying to Krishna in this way? Because he doesn't want to be like Columbus, stopping at the West Indies, when his goal was to find the East Indies. He doesn't want to be like the Jnani, stopping at the Brahman effulgence, when he was actually looking for Krishna. How do we know he's looking for Krishna? Because Krishna is the source of Brahman and Paramatma. But to go back to the source, as we've said before, you run into what's called Achintya Shakti, inconceivable power. And it's confusing. Like if you see a tsunami coming at you, you get shocked. A 50-foot high or 100-foot high wave coming at you 500 miles an hour. You get confused by it. You just get shocked. You don't know what to do. You just turn around and start running, but you feel hopeless because it's coming faster than you can run, right? And you know what a 50 feet high wave weighs? Hundreds and hundreds of tons. Right? It's massive. So that's what happens when you try and go to the origin of things. Now, this is explained in the 7th chapter also, so that you see that it is perfectly collaborative. So it says, Naham prakasasarvasya yogamaya samantita mudo yam navijanati loko mam ajam avyayam. Krishna says, I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. In other words, We are covered by Krishna's external potency called Maya. But Krishna is covered by his internal potency called Yoga Maya. So even if you get liberated from the Maya, you still cannot see Krishna. You see? Unless the only way to enter into that transcendental realm is by pure love. So you can mechanically become free of Maya, right? By performing yoga asanas and controlling your breathing and giving up all sense gratification and meditating profoundly. Yeah, you can mechanically get rid of Maya, but you cannot mechanically reach Krishna. You would have to develop pure love of the Lord, and you would have to beg the Lord, as the devotee is doing in Ishopanishad, please remove this dazzling effulgence. I can't see you, it's blinding me, but I want to see your beautiful face and your beautiful form. So, in the purport, the 7th chapter, 25th verse, where Naham prakasasarva sayugamaya samambhuta mudoyam navijananti lokamam ajam adyayam. Prabhupada, our Gurudev Prabhupada explains, it may be argued that since Krishna was present on this earth and was visible to everyone, then why isn't he manifest to everyone now? But actually, he was not manifest to everyone. When Krishna was present, there were only a few people who could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You could count them on your hands. Okay? There was the Pandavas, Bhisma Pitamaha, Dronacharya. Okay. Yes. Why I said the Pandavas, it's already 5. Duryodhana, no. Dhritarashtra, no. But Bhisma Pitamaha, yes. And Dronacharya. Yeah. Draupadi, yes. So how many is that? We're up to 9. Kunti Devi, 10. That's about it. You can't say Yasodhamani, Nanda Maharaj, although they heard that he's God, but in order to express their intimate love for Krishna, they were under the influence of Yoga Maya. And they had to forget that he's God in order to be able to be intimate with him, like tie him up like she's doing here, Damodar Astam. So, but these other people, they knew that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. And you get hardly 10 people, maybe 12 people maximum. Out of the millions and millions of people, there were 680 million people killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra in 18 days. Imagine how populated the world was even then. So, when Krishna was present, there were only a few people who could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the assembly of Kurus, when Sisabala spoke against Krishna's being elected president of the assembly, Bhisma supported him and proclaimed him to be the supreme God. Similarly, the Pandavas and a few others knew that he was the supreme, but not everyone. He was not revealed to the non-devotees and the common man, even though they could see him. Even though they saw him do incredible things, they still didn't believe that he's God. You see? Now, it's very similar to Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago. We're talking about 5,000 years ago with Krishna. 2,000 years ago when Jesus came, hardly 11 people knew that he was the Son of God. Hardly. He had 12 apostles. One of them ratted him out, wanted him killed. The other 11 remained faithful, but shaky, but faithful. No one was totally faithful. Right? Even amongst 11 disciples, they were all somewhat shaky in their belief. But somehow or other they held on. Other than that, who else was there? Mother Mary is mother and his father, maybe. But they were also, not so sure. It was only the 11 disciples that had a level of faith, right? So you see, just because you see something doesn't mean, just because you see God doesn't mean that you accept what you see as a Supreme Personality of God. Why? Because Krishna says, Naham prakasa sarvasa, I am not manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. Who are the foolish and unintelligent? Almost everybody. Because how do you know if someone is foolish and unintelligent? You know by the amount of time the person doesn't think of Krishna in his life. If it is over 90%, they're foolish and unintelligent. Like, for example, in a day there's 24 hours. And let's say people sleep on an average 8 hours a day. So now you're left 16 hours. Now, how much do people think of Krishna during the 16 hours of wakefulness? What do you think, Arush? Huh? Nothing? 5 minutes? Yeah, you're about right. 2 minutes? Probably. Most people, maybe 2 minutes. So, therefore you could say almost 100% of people are foolish and unintelligent. And Krishna says, I'm never manifested a foolish and unintelligent. So, you actually, if you discover by associating with a genuine devotee that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, you still have to pray to the Lord to remove this effulgence, this Brahmajyoti effulgence, so that you can see him as he is. So, therefore it says here, and similarly, the Pandavas and a few others knew that he was the Supreme, but not everyone. He was not revealed to the non-devotees and the common man. Therefore, although they could see him, he's not revealed, although they could see him. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, but for his pure devotees, all men consider him to be like themselves. So that's, in Sanskrit, that's called Atmavan Manyate Jagat. See others as you see yourself. Just like one time, there was these two thieves talking about an honest man. And one of them said to the other, you know this guy, you know who he is, right? The other one said, yeah, I know who you're talking about. Do people say he's honest? He said, no, I don't think so. I think he's a thief, just like us. Well, obviously, a thief sees everyone else as a thief, right? So, that's called Atmavan Manyate Jagat. Everyone sees others as like themselves. So therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, but for his pure devotees, all men consider him, meaning Krishna, to be like themselves. He was manifest only to his devotees as the reservoir of all pleasure. But to others, to unintelligent non-devotees, he was covered by his internal potency. So Sisapala is looking right at Krishna and says, this guy's a rascal. He should not be honored in the Rajasuya sacrifice. He's a coward. He ran away from Jarasandha. That means he's a coward. And he's not even a Kshatriya. He's a coward boy. He's cleaning gobar all day long. You know. So we should have nothing to do with this guy. And he's looking right at Krishna and saying, this guy's a rascal. That means that he cannot see Krishna. He sees him, but he cannot understand who he is. In the prayers of Kunti in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.8.19, it is said that the Lord is covered by the curtain of Yogamaya, and thus ordinary people cannot understand him. This Yogamaya curtain is also confirmed in the Ishopanishad mantra 15, in which the devotee prays, Hiranmayana Patrina. O my Lord, you are the maintainer of the entire universe, and devotional service to you is the highest religious principle. Therefore, I pray that you will also maintain me. Your transcendental form is covered by the Yogamaya. The Brahmajyoti is the covering of the internal potency. May you kindly remove this glowing effulgence that impedes my seeing your Satchitananda form, your eternal form of bliss and knowledge. the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his transcendental form of bliss and knowledge, is covered by the internal potency of the Brahma Jyoti. And the less intelligent impersonalists cannot see the Supreme on this account. Also in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.7, there is this prayer by Brahma: O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Super Soul, O Master of all mystery, who can calculate your potency and pastimes in this world? You are always expanding your internal potency, and therefore no one can understand you. Learned scientists and learned scholars can examine the atomic constitution of the material world, or even the planets, but still they are unable to calculate your energy and potency, although you are present before them. End of quote. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is not only unborn, but also avyaya, inexhaustible. His eternal form is bliss and knowledge, and his energies are all inexhaustible. So how can the ant-like scientists, with their ant-like brains, understand Krishna? It's not possible. And therefore, they avoid talking about Krishna, and they just keep speculating, making up theories, black holes, and so forth, Big Bang theory, we all come from monkeys, and we can genetically alter things, and blah, 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 chromosomes and RNA and DNA. They throw around a lot of names, a lot of things, a lot of terminology people don't understand. But after all is said and done, everything they say is nonsense. Has no substantial truth in it. Okay, so then Prabhupada explains here, after all this, he quotes the Brahma Samhita, Yasya Prabha Prabhuvato Jagaranda Pratim Pratis Vasesu Vasudadi Vibhukti Vinam Tad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Vasesat Uttam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who has great power. The impersonal Brahman is simply the glowing effulgence of his transcendental form. Brahma Samhita, 5th chapter, 40th verse. So this Brahman effulgence is nothing but the effulgence emanating from Krishna's body. So when people say Krishna has no form, Krishna is the sum total of the tamasa buddhi, intelligence and ignorance, but the actual form of God is formless, and it's in the form of light. They are contradicting everything that Shastra says. There's no basis for what they're saying. No Shastric basis for what they're saying. And on the other hand, it's contrary to what the Shastra says about the Supreme Absolute Truth. So Krishna has a very powerful bodily effulgence, and within that bodily effulgence, all creation is manifested. Just as within the sun's effulgence, all these planets are moving, and all this vegetation is growing, everything is existing within the sunshine in the material world. So similarly, Sarvam Klav, Idam Brahma, everything is existing within the Brahma Jyoti, or the spiritual light emanating from Krishna's transcendental body. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Mayatatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina, 9th chapter, 4th verse of Bhagavad Gita. This impersonal exhibition of this whole manifestation, it is I, Krishna says. Mayatatam idam sarvam jagat. Matstani sarva bhutani, everything existing is within me. Nachaham tesu avastitaha, and yet I am not directly there. So he is and he isn't present in the material world. He is present as his expansion, Paramatma. He is present as his expansion of Bhumir, Apo, Nalo, Vayu, Kam, Manu, Buddhirevacha, the 8 fundamental material elements of which everything material is composed. He is present as and from the expansion of his Brahma Jyoti effulgence, on which everything is situated. But he himself is dancing with the gopis in Goloka Vrindavan, completely aloof and transcendental from what's happening in the material world. Although, everything depends on him. Just like the boss is on vacation and all the workers are working really hard. The boss is controlling, but he doesn't have to be present. He's got a system of managers, VPs, and presidents, and partners, and this thing and that thing. And they're all working really hard, and he's sitting there in Tahiti with a pina colada on the beach, with a Hawaiian shirt on and a big straw hat, enjoying as much as he can. So Krishna everything is made of Krishna's energies, but Krishna is still transcendental. And this is explained in the invocation mantra of the Ishopanishad, Om Purnam Ada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Adashate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Krishna says the devotee says about Krishna, he says that the Supreme Absolute Truth is perfect and complete. And because he is perfect and complete, everything that emanates from him is also perfect and complete. And because everything that emanates from him is perfect and complete, still he is not diminished one iota. He also simultaneously remains perfect and complete, although he's the source of everything that's emanating from him. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced in the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains a complete mountain. So, to understand this in simple language, let's say you are a Swiss watchmaker. Put your hand in front of your mouth when you yawn. Don't just open your mouth like a hippopotamus. You ever see a hippopotamus open his mouth? Pretty big, huh? It's not pretty. So, let's say you are Shivani, you're a Swiss watchmaker, right? You live in Lucerne, Switzerland. Now you make a perfect Swiss watch. Say you make a Rolex, right? But it is not perfect. Why is it not perfect? Yes. Well, that's true. And if the man is not perfect, how can you make a perfect watch, right? That's what you're saying. Yeah, that's true. But there's more to the answer. See, Krishna is perfect and complete. So when he makes something, it can reproduce itself without his personal presence. Can the Swiss watch, that Rolex that costs $35,000, can it reproduce itself? No. Is it? So it's not a perfect and complete creation. It might perfectly keep time for a certain period of time, but it can't reproduce itself. You need the Swiss watch, or you, to make another one, right? But Krishna can create things in such a way that they function as if independent of him. As if. Why do we say as if? Because they have inherent the power to reproduce, but the whole system is controlled by Krishna. Just like some Japanese guy, Mr. Chang Wang Chong Hu, makes a robot, right? And he calls it the Fuji, right? After Mount Fuji. Now Fuji is a robot, right? And it can do house cleaning, it can answer the phone, it can clean the toilet, and it can even go to Walmart and shop. Huh?
Online. I don't think we can.
Let's assume that the Japanese scientist is really good at robotics. He can also shop. Now, who made that arrangement for Fuji? Did Fuji make it herself? Yeah, right. Yeah, whatever his name is. So he did that, right? And But can Fuji, let's say, go to Wild Waters? Is that the name?
Wild waves.
Wild Waves, and go down, the slide and the what? No, she's not programmed to do that. She's programmed to go to Walmart, but not Wild Waves. If she went to Wild Waves, she'd get confused. If you put her on the slide, she wouldn't know what to do. She'd end up in a junk pile. Right. So we see that an arrangement has been made by someone, but it's not perfect and complete. It's restricted to certain tasks. Right? Why? Because the person that made it is also restricted with certain tasks. Like, for example, he can't eat. He can eat, but he can't stop passing stool. He can drink, but he can't stop passing urine. So he's not perfect and complete. Whereas Krishna, he can eat, but he doesn't have to pass stool. If he wants to pass stool, he can, but he's not obliged to. It's perfect and complete. So we're programmed in a certain way. You eat something, you have to pass stool. You drink something, you have to pass urine. Yes.
I think somebody that it was almost 10 years ago, he was more of a Mayavadi, using the same words to say that, okay, if everything is perfect and complete, that emanates from, why can't we be as perfect? I mean, basically, it's the rationale to say, like, why does it have to be Krishna as the source?
No, we can be perfect. That's the whole point.
But we will never be same as. So
It's just like this. You have a bicycle, and the fastest you can go is, let's say, 30 miles an hour. But you ride your bicycle to SeaTac Airport, and you ride it onto a Boeing jet that has no seats in it. It's just everything is clear. And you keep riding it in the jet, and the jet takes off. Now, you're still going 25, 30 miles an hour inside the jet on your bicycle, but now the jet is going 500 miles an hour. So you're actually going 500 miles an hour. But you can't go faster than 25 miles an hour on your bicycle. So in the same way, we are all limited. So in that sense, you could say we could never be equal to Krishna. But if we connect to Krishna through bhakti or pure love, you can't connect to Krishna through yoga or jnana. And definitely not by karma. But you can connect to him through bhakti. If you connect to him, then even though you can't go faster than 30 miles an hour, by connecting to the airplane, you're going 500 miles an hour. But you can only connect through love and devotion. So, did he explain that? No, I mean, he's a speculator, you understand?
Right.
And he's a good speculator. He said, this verse says, Om Purnam. God is perfect and complete, and we are part and parcel of God. So how come that means that we can become perfect and complete also, right? But you can't do it by speculation. By speculation, you can figure out the questions, but you can't figure out the answers. It's only by accepting knowledge from superior authority that you can figure out the answer. You can figure out the questions, because he's a good speculator. But to get the answer, the correct answer, you have to get knowledge from. Therefore, spiritual knowledge is called avaroha, it's descending, and material knowledge is called aroha, it's ascending. Well, you use the ascending process, you'll never get to the top. You use the descending process, you can figure out what is the absolute truth. Okay? So right now we're using the descending process, avaroha panta. We're receiving knowledge from the acharyas who are simply repeating what Krishna said originally in Bhagavad Gita and what Krishna's devotees have said in Smriti Shastra, meaning Srimad Bhagavatam, and Shisha Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Smritasvatara Upanishad, etc. Okay, so I think we're going to stop there. We haven't finished. Let me see how much more there is here. My problem is I keep digressing to give more and more context. So to get through a simple thing like this can take at least 2 weeks. And I have a lot more to say. So we'll stop right there. Are there any other questions? Yes?
Prabhuji, you talked about the faith.
Yes.
So still we have very little faith, even though we are hearing and trying some basic practice. So how to cultivate that little faith towards firm faith so that we'll have
Very
one day.
simple,
firm faith.
Prabhu. Let's say you have an iron bar, right? Now, is that bar fire?
No.
No. But if I put the iron bar in fire and keep it there long enough, when I take it out, I can burn something with it. You see? So you have no faith. But if you associate with someone with faith, you will eventually develop strong faith. And if you associate with people who have no faith, even if you have faith, you will lose it. You see my point? Everything in spiritual life depends on sadhu sangha. Associating with genuine sadhus, not the fake sadhus with a big stomach and a gold chain and a Rolex watch and a BMW and Tesla. Now they don't even drive BMWs, now they drive Teslas. Right? Those people, and they do puja for hire. You will not learn anything about Krishna with such people. But you associate with genuine sadhus, and every minute is exciting because every minute you learn something new. Krishna is Ananta, unlimited, Hare Krishna. He's unlimited, so you can learn unlimitedly about Krishna. Never boring, ever fresh, Navayovanam, always fresh, pristine. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Bol.